The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the quaint village nestled at the edge of Blackwood Forest. Birds chirped their evening songs, and the gentle hum of activity resonated through the streets as villagers hurried to finish their chores before nightfall. In the heart of the village, two girls were eagerly making preparations for their impending adventure. Celine, with her sparkling eyes, eagerly folded her clothes and placed them in a satchel. "Can you believe we're actually doing this, Paulina? Camping in Blackwood Forest," she exclaimed, the excitement evident in her voice. Paulina, carefully packing some dried fruits and bread, looked up with a smile. "Only you could convince me to venture into that place. Everyone says it's haunted," she teased. Celine rolled her eyes. "They're just stories, Polly. We'll go, camp for a couple of nights, and come back with tales of our own." She picked up a lantern, examining it before placing it into her bag. "Besides, think of the stars we'll see without the village lights," she added dreamily. As they walked towards the village outskirts, their path was suddenly blocked by Agatha, the oldest resident of the village. Her silver hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes held depths of wisdom and experience. "You girls heading to the forest?" she asked, her voice raspy with age. "Yes, Granny Agatha," Celine replied confidently. "Just a short trip." Agatha stared deep into the forest, then back at the girls. "I was young once, filled with the same spirit of adventure. But the forest is old, older than any story or song. It remembers things we've long forgotten." Paulina, a tad superstitious, felt a chill. "Do you think we shouldn't go?" Agatha sighed, reaching into her cloak and producing a worn-out amulet. "This has been in my family for generations," she whispered, handing it to Paulina. "It's said to protect against the spirits of the forest. Take it, just in case." Celine looked skeptical but held her tongue out of respect. "Thank you, Granny Agatha," she murmured. As the two girls continued on their way, the dense canopy of Blackwood Forest loomed ahead. The sounds of the village faded, replaced by the haunting call of an owl and the rustling of leaves. They ventured deeper, driven by youthful exuberance, unaware of the mysteries that awaited them. With the forest enveloping them and the village now out of sight, Celine whispered, "This is where our story begins." The deeper Celine and Paulina ventured into Blackwood Forest, the more surreal their surroundings became. The trees grew taller and more twisted, their shadows dancing playfully as the setting sun streamed through the canopy. The once audible chirping of birds became distant, replaced by the rhythmic sounds of crickets and the gentle rustle of unseen creatures. Paulina, clinging to the amulet Agatha had given her, tried to keep up with Celine's brisk pace. "Slow down," she called out. "We need to find a place to camp before it gets too dark." Celine paused, looking around. "You're right," she admitted. "But there's something about this forest, Paulie. It's like it's calling out to me." Paulina shivered, the weight of Granny Agatha's warning pressing down on her. "Let's just find a spot," she urged. Wandering deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a serene, moonlit lake, its still waters reflecting the darkening sky and silhouettes of surrounding trees. At its bank, a small clearing provided the perfect spot for their camp. "This is it," Celine declared, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the moon. "It's perfect." Paulina nodded in agreement, though she couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. As they began setting up their tents, the gentle lapping of the lake's waters and the distant call of a nightingale provided a comforting backdrop to the quiet of the forest. Once their camp was set, Celine lit a fire, its warm glow casting dancing shadows on the trees. The two girls sat around it, roasting apples and sharing stories from the village, their laughter echoing into the stillness of the night. As hours passed and the fire dwindled, a faint, ethereal singing reached their ears. It was soft, almost dreamlike, seemingly coming from the direction of the lake. Intrigued, Celine stood up, her eyes scanning the water's edge. "Do you hear that, Paulie?" she whispered, her face a mix of curiosity and wonder. Paulina, clutching the amulet tighter, nodded. "It sounds beautiful, but also sad." Who could be singing at this hour in the forest? Drawn to the melody, Celine began walking towards the lake, with Paulina hesitantly following. As they approached the water's edge, the singing grew louder, its haunting notes sending shivers down their spines. The reflection of the moon on the lake began to ripple, and from its depths, a silvery apparition rose, its form that of a woman with long, flowing hair, her eyes filled with ancient sorrow. Transfixed, Celine and Paulina watched as the spectral figure sang her mournful song, her voice echoing the pain and loss of centuries past. As quickly as she appeared, the apparition vanished, leaving the lake's surface calm once more, the forest silent except for the gentle rustling of leaves. Stunned, the two girls retreated to their camp, the weight of what they had witnessed pressing heavily upon them. Blackwood Forest, it seemed, was full of mysteries, and their adventure was only just beginning. Dawn broke with a gentle touch, its first rays filtering through the dense canopy above and casting dappled patterns of light across the clearing. The events of the previous night seemed almost dreamlike in the serene glow of morning. Celine emerged from her tent, stretching her arms and taking a deep breath of the crisp forest air. The lake looked peaceful, its waters reflecting the soft hues of the sky. She turned to see Paulina, already awake, staring intently at the amulet in her hand. "You were up early," Celine remarked, joining her friend by the fire pit, where the ashes from last night's fire lay cold. Paulina looked up, her face pensive. "I couldn't sleep after, the singing, the apparition. It felt too real to be just a dream." Celine nodded, her curiosity piqued. Blackwood Forest holds many secrets, it seems. But we're here to discover them, right? Paulina hesitated. Then with a deep breath, she said, "We should be careful, Celine. But yes, let's find out more. Maybe there are clues around the lake." Their breakfast was a quick affair, and with renewed determination they set off to explore the lake's perimeter. The forest seemed to come alive around them, with birds flitting between branches and the occasional rustle of small animals in the underbrush. As they walked, Paulina stumbled upon an overgrown pathway leading away from the lake. The trail was marked by ancient, moss-covered stones on either side. Intrigued, they decided to follow it. The path led them to a clearing dominated by a stone circle, its megaliths arranged in a perfect ring. In the centre stood a gnarled old tree, its bark marked with cryptic engravings and symbols. Celine approached the tree, her fingers tracing the mysterious markings. "These look druidic," she murmured. "I've read about them in old village scrolls. They were ancient priests who revered nature and performed rituals during special moon cycles." Paulina glanced at the sky, noting the waxing crescent. "We're approaching a full moon. Do you think that's why the apparition appeared?" Celine, lost in thought, replied, "Maybe. The Druids believed in the power of the moon, especially its ability to bridge the world of the living and the spirits." The two girls spent hours at the stone circle, trying to decipher the markings and understanding their significance. As the sun began its descent, they realized they had lost track of time. Suddenly, a soft gust of wind rustled the leaves and a voice whispered, echoing through the clearing. "Remember." Startled, Paulina clutched the amulet, her eyes darting around. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Celine nodded, her face pale. "It's time to head back to camp." With the mysteries of the stone circle and the haunting voice in their minds, the two friends hurried back, the weight of Blackwood Forest's ancient past bearing down on them. Returning to their camp, a sense of unease settled over both Celine and Paulina. The lake, which had seemed so serene and inviting earlier, now felt watchful, as if it held secrets just beneath its surface. As they sat by the rekindled fire, Paulina reached for her neck, her face draining of colour. "My locket," she whispered, panic evident in her voice. "It's gone." Celine tried to calm her friend. "It's all right, Paulie. We can look for it tomorrow. It must have fallen off while we were exploring." Paulina shook her head, her eyes glistening with tears. "You don't understand, Celine. It was my mother's. She gave it to me before she passed away. It's the last tangible memory I have of her. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Celine stood. Let's retrace our steps. We can use the lantern. With the soft glow of the lantern guiding them, they made their way back to the stone circle. The moon, brighter now, illuminated the clearing, casting the ancient stones in an eerie light. It was Celine who first noticed the glint near the base of the gnarled tree. Hanging from one of its twisted branches was Paulina's locket. "How?" Paulina whispered, reaching for it. "We didn't come near the tree earlier." Celine, her instincts on high alert, surveyed the surroundings. "We should leave this place, Paulie. There's more to this forest than we know." As they made their way back to their camp, Paulina opened the locket. Inside was a faded portrait of her mother, young and radiant. But now, behind the portrait, lay a small folded piece of parchment. Paulina carefully unfolded it, revealing a handwritten note. "To the daughters of the future, remember the past. The forest binds what it loves. Protect it, and it shall protect you." Celine, reading the note over Paulina's shoulder, felt a shiver down her spine. "Your mother, did she know about Blackwood Forest's mysteries?" Paulina, deep in thought, responded. "She used to tell me stories of her own adventures in the forest when she was young. I always thought they were just tales. But now..." The realization dawned upon both of them. The connection between Paulina's lineage and the forest was undeniable. Their adventure was not just a mere camping trip, it was a journey of discovery, legacy, and destiny. With the locket safely around Paulina's neck, they returned to their camp, deciding to keep watch in turns. As the night deepened, the forest came alive with sounds and whispers, the stories of the past yearning to be heard and understood. Under the watchful gaze of the moon, Celine and Paulina, with renewed purpose, discussed the enigmatic note found in the locket. The whispers of the night seemed to be listening intently, as if urging them to unravel the puzzle of Blackwood Forest. As they were deep in conversation, a soft glow began to emanate from the amulet Agatha had given Paulina. It pulsed with a rhythm, matching the heartbeat of the forest. Drawn to the light, a shadow detached itself from the surrounding trees, solidifying into the form of a tall, ethereal woman with silver hair and ageless eyes, the very apparition they had seen by the lake. Paulina, holding on to the glowing amulet, addressed the spirit. "Who are you?" The spirit, her voice like the wind rustling through leaves, replied, "I am Elara, the guardian of Blackwood Forest. I've watched over these woods for centuries, ensuring the balance between nature and man." Celine, her curiosity taking over, asked, "Why did you appear to us?" Elara's gaze shifted to Paulina's locket. "Your lineage, young one, is tied to this forest. Your ancestors, along with the Druids, were the protectors of this sacred land. Over time, memories faded and the bond weakened, but the forest remembers." Paulina clutched her locket. "My mother, she knew?" Elara nodded. "She did. And now it's your turn to know. Blackwood Forest is not just a collection of trees and creatures. It's a living entity with memories, emotions, and power. The stone circle you found is where the Druids performed rituals to strengthen the bond between the forest and its protectors. On the night of the full moon, the barrier between realms thins, allowing spirits like me to communicate and share the forest's wisdom." Celine, processing the information, wondered aloud. "So, what does the forest want from us?" Elara's eyes softened. "To remember, to protect. The forest senses a looming threat, and it needs its protectors to stand once again. Paulina, with your ancestry, and Celine, with your courage, together you can ensure the safety of Blackwood Forest." The amulet's glow began to fade, and with it, Elara's form started to wane. "Remember your purpose," she whispered, her figure dissolving into the night. The weight of their responsibility settled on the two friends. They realized their camping trip had transformed into a quest much larger than themselves. The forest's plea for help was clear, and they were its chosen champions. The dawning day saw a transformed Selene and Paulina. With their newfound purpose, they approached the stone circle once again. The approaching full moon lent the air a palpable energy. Paulina, feeling the weight of her ancestry, stood at the heart of the circle, the amulet's glow intensifying. Ilara spoke of a looming threat, but what is it? Selene, examining the ancient symbols on the gnarled tree, realized the druids' rituals weren't just to strengthen the bond, they also served as barriers, keeping dark entities at bay. Over time, with the rituals forgotten, the barriers weakened. A distant rumbling interrupted them, the ground beneath them vibrating. From the depths of the forest, shadows began converging on the stone circle, their intent malevolent. Paulina, driven by instinct and memory, began chanting in a language she didn't consciously know, her voice echoing with the power of generations before her. The amulet pulsed, its light weaving around the stone circle. Selene, inspired by Paulina's courage, joined her friend at the center, her voice harmonizing with Paulina's. Their combined energy created a force field, pushing back the encroaching shadows. The battle of light against darkness raged, with the stone circle as its epicenter. As the full moon reached its zenith, the chant reached its crescendo. With a blinding flash of light, the shadows were dispelled, retreating into the forgotten recesses of the forest. Exhausted, the two friends collapsed, the stone circle's energy enveloping them protectively. The moonlight bathed the clearing in a gentle glow, the forest singing in harmony. As dawn approached, Ilara's form once again materialized, a smile gracing her ethereal features. You have done well, protectors. The forest's legacy is renewed, its bond with its champions strengthened. Paulina, holding Selene's hand, replied, We will remember, always. Ilara nodded, her form starting to fade. The forest will guide and protect you, as you have done for it. Farewell, daughters of Blackwood. With the Guardian's departure, Selene and Paulina made their way back to their camp, the forest's beauty more vivid than ever. As they packed up, ready to return to their village, Paulina looked at the locket. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Selene smiled. Our adventure has just begun. The two friends, the renewed protectors of Blackwood Forest, made their way home, their hearts full of purpose, their souls forever entwined with the ancient woods.